Man, I love Crash Tag Team Racing. It always gets a smile out of me. Wait, Mr. Doctor, you shouldn't be enjoying that game. It has a terrible score in Metacritic. Why don't you play an actually fun racing game like Mario Kart Super Circuit? It has a score of 93. Don't you just hate when that happens? You're playing a game, enjoying yourself and having fun when a random clown comes out from the sewer and tells you that you can't enjoy a game because it has a low review score on Metacritic? Believe me, I do. Hello dear patients, your favorite doctor here, Dr. Plague, and today we will discuss a very important matter. Review scores, numerical scores in general for games. These little numbers have a lot of supposed value when considering how good or bad a game is. But should this be trusted and taken as absolute gospel? Let's delve into the murky depths of this tumultuous topic and see why numerical scores are actually worthless. Before we begin, we need to talk a little bit more about Metacritic. Metacritic is a website that aggregates reviews of films, television shows, music albums, and what really matters to us in this analysis, video games. As such, Metacritic itself is not a reviewer. The site just collects the different reviews and averages a total score depending on the scores of the reviews, and has a distinct coloring scheme for the scores. Green means great, yellow means below average, and red means stinky bad. It is worth mentioning that the site has two different types of scores and reviews. One called Metascore, which is based on professional critic reviews, and User Score, which is based on reviews posted by users of the site itself. Now, considering this information, Metacritic is only part of the problem with review scores. A big one, mind you, but not entirely. Gaming websites like IGN and GameSpot are the ones handling out scores to determine how good or bad a game is, while Metacritic just compiles the information. So, let's talk about review scores. Few are the reviews you can see nowadays that don't include a numerical value at the end. You have all this detailed information about story, gameplay elements, technical aspects, and all of that is trying to get summarized with a simple number, and a lot of people base the entire value of a game in this very subjective part of a review. If you check the game review scoring page on IGN, you will even see this referenced in a paragraph that reads, "Of course, not everyone wants to read through a full written review, which on IGN will generally range from 1000 to 4000 words. Maybe you're short on time, and maybe you're simply extremely spoiler sensitive and are looking to avoid any hint of detail and would prefer a summary. For that reason, we provide a brief one-paragraph verdict section that summarizes all the major praise and criticisms and provide an overall score. While the verdict and score won't provide you with as much detail and is not intended as a replacement for reading the full review, it offers a snapshot of our impressions. There are quite some other interesting tidbits, like how they always try to give the games to reviewers who like the genre or are actively wanting to play the game. Look, I don't want to stir the pot too much here. Oh, who am I kidding? I want to fucking turn the pot over and spill it all over the place. We all know about that meme review of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. 7 out of 10, too much water. And I'm sorry, but I do quite recall watching the review for Taimisha when it came out. The reviewer gave it a 6 out of 10, complaining about things that were not mentioned in other similar games like Elden Ring and Sekiro, and I don't know about you, but the reviewer talks like he'd rather be doing anything else than, doing his job.
That's likely the consequence of his direct involvement in a plague spreading across the country.
By the way, if you're interested in a much more exciting review of the game without a numerical value tying it down, you can check my review right here, and maybe subscribe if you like my content. Getting back on track, while it's impossible to expect objectivity in a review beyond the technical aspects from a game, which are factual information, like the resolution, the frame rate and such, the issue with this is that this subjectivity in numerical scores completely taints the public opinion of a game. It is always okay to dislike a game, but it is an opinion that should not be taken as a fact. There's one aspect that I feel can't be summarized or quantified with a number, and that is the fun factor because, as I have mentioned sometimes in other videos, fun is an entirely subjective factor, and what might or might not be fun to the reviewer who gave the game a 5 out of 10 will likely be different from the opinion of millions of regular gamers or even other game critics. This is a pretty flawed system. But wait, let's make something perfectly clear. I don't want you to think that I have a problem with reviews and people expressing their opinion about games. Reviews are a very helpful tool when considering if it's worth getting a game or not. The issue, however, is that people are skipping the useful part of the reviews, the review itself, and jumping right to the score, and depending only on this factor, they declare that the game sucks or it's an absolute masterpiece, and that's where Metacritic comes into play. Nowadays, the Metacritic score is used to determine the value of a game and ignoring every other possible aspect of a critique, like a proper review. You'd think that this is an issue only encouraged by gamers or the general public, but no. Developers and publishers are highly reliant on these scores, because whether we like it or not, these numbers determine the value and quality of the game for the public, which means more sales and more money. I'm pretty sure you have seen how some re-releases of games titled Game of the Year Edition love to put critic scores all over the cover or back cover of the case. Furthermore, there is one publisher that seems to cherish these milestones more than any other, and that is Sony. According to my arcane research, while on a podcast, former Sony Santa Monica art director Rafael Grassetti said that Sony demands that its studio's high-end productions receive at least 90 on Metacritic. He said that this expectation targeted developers like Santa Monica Studios, responsible for the God of War series, and Naughty Dog, responsible for the Uncharted and The Last of Us series, and formerly known for making very fun games like the Crash Bandicoot original trilogy on the PS1 and the Jak and Daxter trilogy on the PS2. Ah, the good times. This also led me to find that Sony was Metacritic's highest rated publisher in 2022, which is hard to complain about given that 2022 saw the release of Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, The Last of Us Part 1, and Gran Turismo, plus some well-regarded PC ports for God of War 2018 and both Insomniac's Spider-Man games. This is all well and good, but does this expectation affect how a franchise is seen as viable for a sequel in Sony's eyes? There have been multiple reports of Days Gone not getting a sequel because of this particular factor. However, the initial reception and sales of the game might have played a part in this decision, not to mention the overtly defiant attitude of its director, but I digress. But if it were true, does that mean that we never saw another Jak game because of this? I mean, Naughty Dog were already deep into making Uncharted and The Last of Us, so it's not fair to speculate. Plus, the last game for the franchise, The Lost Frontier, wasn't even made by Naughty Dog, and it rests at a respectable yet yellow color 71 on Metacritic. What about Sly Cooper? Sucker Punch, developers of the saga, have said that there are no plans to bring the Master Thief Raccoon back, and are busy with projects like a possible sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, but when we look at the Metacritic scores, the last game of the franchise, Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, sits at a Metascore of 75, and guess what? This game, as well as The Lost Frontier, wasn't even developed by its original studio. Remember Ape Escape? The score on Metacritic for the last mainline game, the glorious Ape Escape 3 featuring none other than Solid fucking Snake, is 77, a game that was supposed to be released digitally on the PS Store for the PS4, but got cancelled out of nowhere and under the sheets. Not to mention the PSP spin-offs that were less than stellar and, you guessed it, were not developed by their original studio. Of course, we all know that Japan's studio is now dead and we will never see a new Ape Escape game, but hey, at least we got Bloodborne before its demise. And no, I wouldn't change Bloodborne for another Ape Escape game, are you crazy? Maybe I am crazy, because I'm starting to see a pattern here. With all the discussion about Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard and Sony cowering in fear from the possibility of losing the Call of Duty games, a lot of people have remarked, hey, why don't they just revive the Killzone series? Let's take a look at the Metacritic score for the last game and Big Yellow 73. Curiously enough, this one was actually made by the original studio that made the other games, Guerrilla, which you may know now for developing the Horizon games. So, even though some studios disappeared or are now busy with other projects, there might be some truth in this theory that Sony might let franchises die due to poor Metacritic scores. I'd wear a tinfoil hat, but that would totally ruin my style. After rambling like a madman, what is the point of all of this, Mr. Doctor, you might ask? And well, the answer is very simple. Review scores will never disappear, just as some people won't stop skipping the review to take a look at the score and decide on the quality of the game based on that. The point that I'm trying to get across is that these numerical scores shouldn't be taken at face value. They should always be taken with a grain of salt and then check for yourself to see if it's actually accurate. And no, I'm not saying to go out there and buy every single game to see if it's good or not, but if you're interested in a game, don't let your opinion get tainted by just a number. Take your time to check out the full reviews, and if it sounds like something that can be interesting for you, go for it. One system that I feel works better than numerical scores are the user reviews in Steam. Even though I hate PC gaming, the reviews in the platform have only two measures: recommended and not recommended. Users leave their thoughts about the game, and you can actually see for how long they've played the game to see how reliable the reviewer can be. There are some content creators who make reviews without giving a review score as well, like ACG, who focuses on talking about the aspects of the games in detail so you can decide for yourself if the experience appeals to your taste. Considering that every review is mostly subjective to the person that is constructing it, not every game that is scored lowly is bad, as this numerical system can't properly define the overall value of a game. So go ahead and enjoy whatever you want to enjoy without worrying so much about these paper numbers. Hell, I feel that judging games based solely on their review score is like judging a wrestling match based solely on Dave Meltzer's star rating, which is the most clownish thing someone could ever do in their life. And that's your wrestling reference for you. This has been all for today, my patients, and this is quite a divisive topic, so I would love to see what you think about it. Do you agree with numerical scores? Do you think it's something that should not be given that much value? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this type of content, consider liking the video and subscribing. It truly helps a starving artist like me. And remember, one game a day keeps the plague doctor away. See ya!